So this one is one I've done before a couple of times, but it's probably about a year or so ago that I last did it. So it has been a while, but I got an email from them I think it was about 10 days or so ago. They'd kind of reached a bit of a milestone with their business, and as a kind of celebration, they were offering mystery boxes for half price on their website to the first 50 people that placed an order. So I was straight onto the website, and there were a few different options. I think there were 3 different types of mystery box. I'm not sure actually what the difference is with them apart from the price, so I'm assuming obviously there's probably more items in the higher priced ones, or maybe more higher value items at least. But I placed an order for the one that would originally have been £30, and I obviously got it for 15 plus I think it was £3 postage. So it came a couple of days ago, and it is, let me just grab it, just Killin time. So you may remember it from when I did it last. So it's a true crime subscription box. It contains hand-picked and specially curated mystery and collectible items, all related to true crime. And as you can see from the box, there's lots of different sort of doodles. So if I just kind of hold it up a little closer for you to see some of the doodles that are on there. And I also like that it has sort of an evidence seal closing the box itself. Obviously I have snipped that just so that I can get into it and show you. But what it actually says here is, disclaimer, this box contains information about nasty assholes, not suitable for snowflakes or the faint of heart. So for those of you who kind of aren't aware of this or don't really know much about me, I studied psychology for 5 years, and my specialism was actually criminal psychology. And then I moved into more clinical side of things, but to be fair, clinical and forensic are quite linked in terms of the sort of conditions that you often deal with. And true crime has always been a big interest of mine, I guess. My bookcase is very much filled with books about different, mainly sort of, this is going to make me sound so strange, mainly kind of serial murder, but also I'm very interested in learning about different cases that are not as well known, and also unsolved cases are kind of fascinating me a little bit. Particularly at the minute, I'm sort of getting into looking into unsolved cases and things. So this is the mystery box. However, obviously they do have a subscription service which I have unboxed before, and I'll explain, you know, the price points and things for that as well. But let's get into the actual box itself. Now I'm assuming these mystery boxes are just kind of a culmination of items that have been in past boxes in terms of this subscription. So I'm kind of hoping that I've not already received them. I have only had 2 boxes from them, so there's a very high percentage that most of the stuff in here is not going to be things that I've already received from them. I would love to be able to subscribe to this box. I think it's fascinating, and it's something that I am considering. But because I like to kind of I'm trying to, at least this year, bring different boxes each month. I'm not sure if it's going to be possible. I want to make sure that I can, you know, bring a little bit more variety to it. But certainly just for morbid fascination at least, I think this box would be fascinating to receive every month. So let's open it all out. And one thing that they did ask me on at the checkout was my t-shirt size, so I kind of assumed that hinted at the fact that there was going to be an item of clothing in there. So I have had a couple of items of clothing from them in the past. I had some socks which said, I think it was something like true crime all the time on them, and there was also a hoodie with a pineapple on it that said the brother did it, relating to a very well-known case which I won't name for fear of being sued. However, those of you who are true crime fans, I'm sure you can probably deduce which case it's referring to. So let me just kind of try and space things out a little bit just so that I can hold it up and show you what's in it. But obviously we'll go over each item in a bit more detail anyway. So here, and the hat is just taken a tumble, but here's the inside of the box. So from what I remember when I received this box previously, there is a mixture of different things in there. As I said, handpicked and specially curated mystery and collectible items. So there's clothing, books, magazines, badges, stickers, case cards, and other kind of different little items and things. So I've had a pop socket, I've had a couple of other little bits and bobs as well, art prints, stuff like that. So I'm just going to grab this because this is the first thing that was kind of on the top. This is by Beachfield, I believe. Yeah, Beachfield Original Headwear, and it's a snapback cap which says True Crime Obsessed. It says, hello, my name is True Crime Obsessed. Now this sort of thing, I don't wear caps a lot, but obviously in the summer it is nice to pop them on to kind of protect your eyes a little bit and also protect the top of your head, particularly the sort of parting area, your scalp, where you're likely to maybe get a little bit of sunburn. But this is pretty cool. I like this, so I'm just going to pop it on. There we go, just to show you. I like to try things on during videos where possible, but it definitely fits in with my yeah, definitely fits me with being a true crime obsessed, and actually that is the perfect size. It is on the tightest setting, so you can obviously make it a little bit bigger, but I have quite a small head. I have quite a small everything, so the size that it's on now is perfect for me. So I think I'll probably, you know, wear this occasionally, particularly if I'm having maybe a true crime marathon at home or something like that. I like to get into my comfies and pop on different merchandise. So maybe I'll put the socks on and the hoodie that they sent me before with this cap and just kind of sit watching true crime all day. That sounds good to me. I don't know about you, but that is the first item. So I'll just pop this to the side. I hope I don't run out of room like usual. And there's also a t-shirt here, which is what I expected. Oh, now I love this. So this is Murder Shows and Comfy Clothes. So this is a size small, which is what I asked for. But to be fair, it does look quite like it might be come up a little bit oversized, which to be fair for this kind of thing I prefer anyway. I don't really want like a really tight fitting t-shirt, particularly if it's going to be something that I'm just going to be slobbing around in, which is definitely what this is going to be for. Again, probably pop this on while I'm watching murder shows, but also, you know, just for a nice casual day, doing things around the house, or maybe for nipping out for a walk if I'm brave enough to advertise my interest to the world. But obviously it's a nice length as well, so just try and hold it up. So it looks like it's probably going to be a little bit lower, yeah, so it comes down to kind of just below my hips. So a nice long length, perfect for slobbing around in. Very pleased with this. I did see this on their Instagram page. A couple of people had received it in a box and were showing it off, and I saw it and I was like, oh, I like that t-shirt. I'd like to have that t-shirt, and now I've got it. So perfect. Item number 2. So let's grab this because this is on the top here. So this is a book, and it's by an author. I have a couple of his books actually. I like his style of writing, and I find that he does a lot of research. He goes into a lot of depth about cases, and sometimes cases that aren't always all that well known. But it's by Christopher Berry D, and it's called A Special Place in Hell: The World's Most Depraved Serial Killers. So right up my street. Let's see what it says on the back here. So Sunday Times best-selling author Christopher Berry D is the man who talks to serial killers. A world-renowned investigative criminologist, he's gained the trust of murderers across the world, entered their high-security prisons, and discussed in detail their shocking crimes. The killer's pursuit of horror and violence is described through the unique audio tape and videotape interviews which Berry D conducted deep inside the bowels of some of the world's toughest prisons. A Special Place in Hell collects interviews from those killers who Berry D considers the most depraved and savage into this astounding, disturbing book. Not only does it describe Berrydee's meetings with some of the world's most evil men and women, it also reproduces verbatim their very words as they describe their crimes, allowing the reader a glimpse into the inner workings of the people who committed the worst crime possible to mercilessly take the life of another human being. So that sounds right up my street, obviously, talking about, you know, the inner workings of them. That's my area, that's what I'm fascinated by, the psychology of why people do what they do. So I'm just going to have a look at the contents and see if it gives a bit of a hint as to who exactly is included here. Okay, so we have Peter Curtin, who I believe was is he German? And Friedrich Heinrich Karl Harmon, also known as Fritz Harmon. Ted Bundy, I'm sure you're all familiar with him. Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono, so they were the Hillside Stranglers. They operated around the same time as Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker. In fact, a couple of their crimes, I believe, were originally believed to have been committed by Richard Ramirez, but it was found that there was actually, terrifyingly, 2 serial killers, well, 3 to be fair, because the Hillside Stranglers operated as a pair, but you know, there were 2 on the go at the same time, which is terrifying to think about. Peter Sutcliffe, so the Yorkshire Ripper. I'm from Yorkshire, so I'm quite familiar with Peter Sutcliffe and his crimes. It's a case that's kind of close to my heart because I know a lot of the areas where these crimes took place. Excuse my Apple Watch just kicking off there. But I'm quite familiar with a lot of the places that Peter Sutcliffe was frequenting, and some of the places that his victims' bodies were discovered, and he was also arrested at the top of the road that my dad lived in as a young child. So yeah, just a little bit of interesting stuff there. So we've got Richard Speck, Alan Lee Davis, Thomas Watt Hamilton, and Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm sure again you're all familiar with Jeffrey Dahmer. And finally, Reverend James Warren Jones. So there's quite a few in there that are well known, but also quite a few that maybe aren't as well known as other serial killers are. So looking forward to getting stuck into that. I think I'm probably going to really enjoy that. And let's pop that over there. So now we're on to kind of the little quirky hand-picked items that have been specially curated. I can see that there is the pop socket here that I did receive already, so it just matches the print of the box. A pop socket, basically you stick it to the back of your phone, and it helps you to keep hold of it, stops you from dropping it basically. So obviously I don't need another one right now, but it's nice to have a spare in case the one breaks or in case you get a new phone and things like that. So I will keep hold of it. And we also have a couple of badges here. So again, one of them I do already have. Obviously it's a fist in the air there. And we also have one that says no comment, which is quite a good one because obviously that's what a lot of serial killers and, you know, criminals in general tend to say when they're being interrogated by the police once they've been arrested. We also have a art print here from the Netflix documentary, or I think it was 2 or 3 episodes, Don't Fuck with Cats. So you can see here, it's an interesting art piece. I'll be honest, I haven't watched Don't Fuck with Cats, primarily because I have cats and I feel like I need to be in the right frame of mind to watch it because it would probably make me extremely angry and also extremely upset and want to go and hug my cats very tight afterwards. But for those of you who aren't familiar with the case from Don't Fuck with Cats, it's relating to a chap called Luke Magnotta. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And in 2012 in Canada, he murdered a Chinese computer engineering student called Lin Yun. Now, the idea behind the documentary, I believe, again, I haven't watched it personally, but I believe it's centered around some internet sleuths who had quite a heavy involvement in tracking this chap down. So back in 2010, Luke started posting quite disturbing videos online where he was torturing and killing cats, which is, I guess, where the title comes from. And these internet sleuths saw these videos and they were a little bit worried that he might start to escalate his behaviours, and how right they were. So they started trying to track him down. And when he murdered Lin Yun, he also posted videos of that online too, and he also dismembered her body. I think it was a lady. He posted, again, videos online, and he posted various parts of her body to different places in Canada, including the headquarters of the two main political parties. He then fled to Europe, but he was finally arrested and charged for his crimes, and I believe sentenced to life in 2014. When he was arrested, I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous. He was reading about his own crimes. So he was reading a news story online about the crime that he had committed himself. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into his mind. He was obviously very much enjoying reading a news report about what he'd done. He was obviously very much, I guess maybe he got off on it, maybe reliving what he'd done to that poor lady. But yeah, it's a case that I have read about, but I haven't yet watched the documentary. I will. I just need to get myself to a place where I am able to watch it without getting quite annoyed and upset. But yeah, that's what this is relating to. And then we have 4 should I say, little prints or postcards. So we have one relating to Luminol. Now I'm sure those of you who have watched any crime show on the TV ever, particularly things like CSI, will know that Luminol is used to test for the presence of blood. So the iron in blood makes Luminol glow up. So it shows up even if you've cleaned the blood away. So, you know, to the naked eye, you may not see any blood. You spray some Luminol on, and if there's blood present, Luminol glows up. So that's the first postcard. We then have Amido Black, which kind of a giveaway here, but it's used to detect blood present in latent fingerprints. So that's, I think it binds to the proteins and makes it show up. Now, these two I did have to do a bit of a deep dive into, and also pronouncing this, diphenylamine, I think is how that is pronounced. Now, looking at this, it appears that it has something to do with gunshot residue, but I didn't go into a massive amount of detail because it was all very scientific and technical, and I'm not I'm not quite at that level of scientific intelligence to be able to decipher a lot of the words that were used, but yeah, there was a lot of mention of gunshot residue, and it's also toxic as well. And then there was acid phosphatase, and this is used to identify the presence of semen. So they're the 4 little postcards, and they are postcards. They've got things on the back there, obviously, for stamps and writing on and things. I'm not sure who I would send those to, but they are certainly interesting prints anyway to kind of have around if you want to frame them or anything like that. Then we have some stickers. So I'm just going to grab these out here. So we have, first of all, one to do with a chap called John Dillinger. So it's a wanted poster for him. Now, he was an American gangster, and he was accused of robbing 24 banks and 4 police stations. He was part of a whole kind of gang. I think he was kind of the leader as well. I will admit, gangsters and stuff like that is not my strong point, so it's not something that I have an awful lot of knowledge in, but I believe he also escaped from prison a couple of times as well, so he's quite infamous for that sort of thing. Yeah, bank robbery, escape, and murder is on there as well, but it's a wanted dead or alive poster, and it also mentions maybe accompanied by one or more of the following men: Harry Pierpont, Homer Van Meter, John Hamilton, and Charles Markley. So that's one sticker. We also have one here that says hot for Holes. Now, I believe Holes is in relation to a chap called Paul Holes, who is a cold case investigator, or at least he used to be, and he was, I believe, involved in finding the Golden State Killer, Joseph DeAngelo, using, obviously, since Joseph DeAngelo, I believe, has recently passed away in prison, but he was at large for many, many years. And it was only due to the advances of things like DNA and also genealogy technology that they were able to trace him using evidence from back when he committed his crimes. And I believe Paul Holes, and it says here as well, "Fuck you, Golden State Killer," at the bottom there. But yeah, Paul Holes was one of the chaps who was involved in actually bringing the guy to justice. Even though it was, you know, a little bit late, at least he did finally be served the justice, and the victims of him were obviously finally given that closure that they needed. Now, this one, I'm trying to pick it up, there we go, is in relation to the West Memphis 3 case. So this is one that I did quite a bit of a deep dive into, and I will go into a little bit more detail about this in the review of this box, just because I don't want to kind of get too caught up in talking about this case when obviously this is meant to be an unboxing video. If you would like me to start doing more videos more related to specific cases, then please do let me know if that's something you would be interested in. But just to give you a little bit of an overview, this is one of the victims involved in the West Memphis 3 case. And this is, the West Memphis 3 actually is in relation to the men who were convicted of the crime. So they were convicted in 1994 when they were teenagers of the murders of 3 boys. One of them is on this sticker here. And it was in West Memphis, which is in Arkansas. The murders took place in 1993. And there's been a whole thing, so if you can see on the sticker here, test the evidence, West Memphis 3, and then please contact prosecuting attorney Scott Ellington, urging him to release evidence for new technology. The evidence that was collected at the time, I'm just going to put this here, was dubious at best. So there's been a lot of controversy around the case, and you know, there's a lot of people saying that they were innocent, they didn't actually do it. In 2011, they entered something called an Alford Plea, and they were released from prison. Now, the Alford Plea, I'm not a lawyer, I'm definitely not up on laws or anything, but I do remember hearing about the Alford Plea from another case, Stephen Avery, from the Making a Murder documentary that's on Netflix. And it's basically a guilty plea where the defendant doesn't admit the acts and asserts their innocence, but when they enter the plea, they're basically admitting that the evidence presented by the prosecution would be likely to persuade a jury or judge of their guilt beyond reasonable doubt. But because of the time served on their sentences already, so obviously they've been in prison since 1994, they were released in 2011, so because of the time already served, them entering the Alford Plea meant that they were then released from prison. So it's a really interesting case to do a bit of a deep dive into, because what these boys, and please forgive me because I can't remember the names, I will find the names out and put them in the review, but what those 3 boys endured was truly horrific. There were a lot of whispers about whether it was a satanic, you know, if they were a sacrifice, but it's a horrible case to read about. See, this is the thing with true crime, it's not that I enjoy that side of things, I don't enjoy hearing about people having their lives taken from them and about the horrific things that happen to them. My enjoyment of it comes from trying to decipher and trying to understand the individuals behind the crimes, what makes them tick, how they work, you know, looking into their past history and their childhood and trying to kind of figure out what led them to that path of committing those crimes. But yeah, those boys really did go through a horrible ordeal, which unfortunately led to all of them losing their lives. So let's grab this out as well. So just moving back to this sticker, the Hot for Holes sticker. This print, I believe, is Mr. Paul Holes himself. So obviously you can, there's a lot of difference. This is 48 out of 100 on it. So they have a lot of different art prints. I've had one that was Jeffrey Dahmer but as a llama, and also one that was to do with, again, the Golden State Killer, but it was two fingers doing that, and it was a quote from one of his victims, which was a very powerful statement. So we also have this one of Paul Holes himself, who was instrumental in putting D'Angelo where he belonged. We also have, I think this is really interesting, a 2022 calendar. Now obviously we're already into March, so we will have to skip a couple of the months, but I did just want to show you what the months are. So January we have Eileen Wuornos, and you can doodle in there what's going on in her mind. Now I would have loved to have got into Eileen Wuornos's mind. I find that case fascinating for a number of reasons, but yeah, it's a case I'm very conflicted on in a lot of ways, because what she did was truly disgusting, and she should not be given any kind of a pass just because she's female and just because, you know, there was abuse and things in her childhood. However, you know, a lot of the things that she was saying about it being self-defense, etc., it does kind of throw up a lot of conflicting ideas. So it's definitely, if you're not familiar with Eileen Wuornos' case, it's definitely an interesting one to look into. We then have February, Colour the Crime Scene. So it's just obviously some children. It looks like they're kind of just recreating a crime scene together. And then we have, let's flip this over. So we have March, which is where we are now. Draw a fishtail on Albert, so Albert Fish, and draw a fish head on him there. So Albert Fish is a very kind of, I think it was back in the sort of early 1900s, he murdered some young children. Not a very nice man, to say the least, but again, one that's not really, compared to sort of your Ted Bundys, your Jeffrey Dahmers, your Richard Ramirez's, he's not really talked about as much. Not that I'm saying these killers deserve any notoriety whatsoever, you know, that's in a lot of ways what they want, but it's weird, isn't it, how some of these serial killers get more attention than others do, when they're all equally as disgusting as each other. We then have April, I believe, it doesn't actually say the month, but this is Make Up Hugh Grant's excuse to get him out of hot water. And then we have May, which is Brenda Spencer. So draw Brenda Spencer's weapon of choice. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Brenda Spencer, if you have heard the song I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats, it's based on her. So she was, I believe, living with her father, and he had weapons, and this one particular day, it was a Monday, she fired a gun, one of the guns of her father's, out of a upstairs window to a school that was, you know, obviously close by. She could see it from the house, and I can't remember how many people were killed, but when she was arrested and it was, you know, all being investigated, they asked her why she'd done it, and her answer was that she didn't like Mondays. So that's the kind of story behind that that particular song. We then have June. So here is the Dharma Llama that I was referring to. So obviously you finish it, you draw the other side. but I actually have that print itself. It's really funny, because obviously it's making Jeffrey Dahmer look like an idiot, which is no less than he deserves, to be honest. So we then have, when I can flip it over, July. So this is colouring Dog the Bounty Hunter. So I'm sure we're all familiar with Dog the Bounty Hunter and what he does over in Hawaii mainly, but obviously America and other places too. I know Hawaii is part of America, but it's obviously not mainland. And then we have August, which is Pablo Escobar. So draw what was seized from his pad, his house, which I can imagine was quite a lot of things. We then have colouring Teddy Bundy. So he's obviously doesn't need any introduction. Ted Bundy, he's notorious for many reasons. But they've used the picture of him that always gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. It's the eyes for me in that particular picture. There's just nothing behind the eyes, which is quite terrifying, really. We then have October, which is doodle prison tattoos onto Danny Trejo, which he's an actor. In fact, he plays the father of one of the characters in one of my favourite TV shows. So those of you who are fans of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, he plays Rose's father. Then we have, let's go over, November, which is John Wayne Gacy dressed up as his alter ego Pogo the Clown, and you can help him with his makeup, so you can pop makeup on him. And then finally December, Joe Exotic, and colour in this exotic turkey. So obviously that's from Tiger King. So I did think that was kind of a funny item, and obviously you can press that there and it folds, it bends so that you can have it standing up and just flip it over, so you don't actually have to hang it up on the wall. But that was another item. Now these are something that are included every time, obviously different cases, but these three are ones that I'm actually not all that familiar with, so that's always good. But we have little case cards. So this one is about a chap called John Doyle Lee. Now he, let me have a look, see if we can get an overview of what this chap was responsible for. So he was a prominent early Latter-day Saint and came to be known as the central figure in the Mountain Meadows Massacre. So he yeah, so there's a lot of controversy. So he was involved in, again, the Mountain Meadows Massacre, which was a 4-day siege between Mormons and Native Americans. So let's see what he was charged with. He was arrested and tried for the massacre, which ended in a hung jury, but then he was tried again and sentenced to death for leading it, which he always denied. So an interesting one to look into. Again, not something in terms of like massacres and things like that. It's not something that I do have a lot of knowledge on. Obviously I'm familiar with the two more sort of well-known ones. I'm sure you'll know which ones I'm referring to. But yeah, I mean, I was reading up again about as well about one in Waco as well, the Waco siege, which is an interesting one. But it played out a lot differently than I thought it did. So it was definitely kind of interesting to look into that and read a little bit more about it. We then have Irville La Barron. I believe that's how you say it. Please excuse me if it isn't. But he was the leader of a polygamous Mormon fundamentalist group who ordered the killings of many of his opponents. So he is considered by many to have been a serial killer, justifying his actions with the doctrine of blood atonement. He had 13 wives, several of whom he married while they were still underage. So it seems like we have a little bit of a theme going on here. So we've got two sort of Latter-day Saint / Mormon vibes going on there. But another one that I will look into just going to see what he was actually charged with. The 4 o'clock murders, which sound interesting, so I'm definitely going to look into that. There'll be more information in the written review that comes with this video. And then the last one is Henry Lear. So he, again, mass killings. So it all seems like it's all to do with kind of mass murders. But one of the most horrific mass killings in North Dakota history happened on April the 22nd, 1920, on the Wolf Farm, 3 miles north of Turtle Lake. Now, I haven't been to America, so I'm not familiar with those locations. I know, obviously, roughly where North Dakota is, but apart from that, I'm not too sure. So let's have a look. Looks like potentially he was a neighbour of the people that were killed, and he was responsible for it. Yeah, so he was arrested for the murders and confessed a day later, sentenced to life in prison, but died less than 5 years after he was sentenced. So another case that I'm not too familiar with, but one that I will definitely be looking into. And then finally, we have a magazine. So again, this is something that's always included every month, but it's not always the same magazine. So I've had one that was Crime Monthly before. I've had that, I think the last 2 times when I did this before, when it was the actual subscription box, it was a magazine called Crime Monthly, which I buy regularly. This is a magazine that I also buy regularly, but I haven't got this particular edition, but it's Real Crime. Killer Case Files. Now this you may recognise from a Netflix documentary called The Keepers. So this is Sister Kathy Sesnick, and she was a nun that disappeared and is presumed to have been murdered she was basically going to expose a lot of abuse that was going on in the churches where she was obviously working as a nun. And there's also a couple of other cases on here. So it says Australian Vampire, which I'm interested in listening to, reading. Elementary School Sniper, so that's Brenda Spencer, that we've just had a look at in the calendar. Bodies in the Barrels, doesn't really give much information about what that case is about. Death Cult Murders, so the terrifying atrocities of Japan's Shinrikyo. Apologies for my pronunciations, and a few other things. So there's always, in this one, there's a real mixture of different things. So there's one here about the mafia as well. So it's not just necessarily murders or serial killers. There's lots of different things in there. Gangs, mafias, excuse me, again, massacres, all different kinds of things like that. So it's quite interesting, particularly if you're interested in all different areas of crimes. There's a lot to do with sort of the American gangsters, mobsters and things like that. So there was an article in that one a few months ago, I think, to do with kind of Al Capone and all of those chaps. So yeah, another very interesting box. Now, with regards to this box, as I say, this was a mystery box, so I paid £15 for it. I think there are a couple of other ones. So this was the cheapest one, but there were a couple of others slightly more expensive, and I assume with that slight price increase, there are maybe either more items in there or items of a higher value to obviously justify the fact that there are, it is a higher price point. However, the subscription box itself, which I have had a couple of times in the past, there's a few different price points that I'll just talk you through. So the first one is called Infraction, and this one is a mini box, so it offers a little bit of a taster or a snippet of what the full-size box includes, and this one is £12.95 per month. There's then the Misdemeanor, which is the one that I've unboxed previously, and I believe probably what this one would be classed as if this were the monthly box. It wouldn't be an Infraction, it would probably be the Misdemeanor one. Based on the contents, it's very, very similar to what I got in those past boxes, and that is the full box, the Misdemeanor, and that's £29.95 per month. There's then serial offender. Now this is where you can prepay for 6 months, and this is £173. There's then the most wanted, which is a 12-month prepay option, and that is £335. Then there's also an option called Partners in Crime, which is a recurring plan for 2 people, and that's £59.90 per month. As I say, there are different mystery boxes available on the store. I think it's labelled Loot on their website, but if you scroll down, so they have different items for sale, so you know, things like this and the t-shirts and some of the items, so potentially, you know, the calendars, the art prints, etc. Some of the stickers are probably going to be on there too, that you can buy, but there's also the mystery boxes on there as well. But as I say, they only reduced the price for the first 50 people, so I'm not sure if that price is still relevant or if 50 people have now purchased. But I was very lucky that I managed to get in there in time. It just so happened that I was on my phone when the email popped up, and I clicked straight through and purchased it, so it was very lucky. So that's everything that I was going to show you, so I'll just quickly recap on it all. And as I say, I'll be doing a full write-up of this where I'll go into a little bit more detail about the cases. A couple of them I'll probably need to do a little bit more research on myself before I sort of write about them, but definitely a very interesting box as always. So there was the magazine, the real-time magazine, and there were 3 case files which I'm going to have a nice read through shortly. The Just Killing Time 2022 calendar, the art print, which is of Paul Holes, and then the 3 stickers. So there was the Hot for Holes one, which relates to the art print. There was the John Dillinger wanted poster and the West Memphis 3. We then had these postcards of different crime-related substances, and the Don't Fuck with Cats art print as well. There were the 2 badges, so there was the Solidarity Fist and the, when I can hold it, the No Comment badge. The A Special Place in Hell book by Christopher Berry D. We had the pop socket as well. And then the 2 clothing items. So we had the t-shirt that says Murder Shows and Comfy Clothes, and also the snapback hat that says hello, my name is True Crime Obsessed. So really happy with the contents again. When it was a mystery box, I wasn't too sure what to expect. I didn't know if it would be similar to the subscription or if it would just be kind of a mishmash of different things, but it's definitely very similar to the contents I've received previously. I'm assuming it's just kind of a mixture of things that have been included in past boxes, but definitely some interesting things to be looking into. I realise that it's probably a bit of an interesting box, or at least a theme for a subscription box, and there may be a lot of people who have mixed feelings about this sort of thing, which I completely understand. However, I feel that they do it in a way that is only disrespectful to the criminals who have perpetrated the crimes. They're not ever disrespectful to the victims, the innocent victims in all of this. You know, a lot of the time they are making fun of the perpetrators, which is again no less than they deserve for the disgusting, reprehensible things that they've done to innocent people. So, you know, while I completely understand that there may be conflicted emotions regarding a subscription box of this nature, I feel that it's definitely an interesting topic. There's not really anything else like it, or at least that I've found in my kind of many years of subscription box research and blogging. And it's a topic that I'm interested in, as I say, for a number of reasons, but mainly because of I like trying to figure out how these people work, you know, the reasons behind their behaviour, and the reasons why they chose the path that they chose. One of the things as well that I really like is that there's a mixture of different items. When you kind of think about a true crime subscription box, you kind of think, well, what sort of things could you put in there? Because obviously a beauty box, you put beauty items in it. A lifestyle box, you put lifestyle items in it. But with true crime, you're like, well, what can you put in? But I think they do it really well in terms of the case files, the clothing, the art prints and all that sort of thing. They make it really interesting, and they make it, again, respectful to the victims whilst poking fun at the criminals themselves, which is, you know, the whole point. They deserve it. So if you have any questions about this, of course, ask away. Let me know what you think, if you're interested in true crime, and if you would like me to maybe do some videos on some of these cases. Please let me know. I'm happy to do a bit of research and go into a bit more detail about them. I didn't want to go into too much detail in this video just because it was meant to be an unboxing video, not a true crime story video. But if you would like me to, you know, go into more detail, please do let me know. I will be doing a full written review as well, where I'll go into a little bit more detail, and I'll also link some further research places for you guys to have a read if you want to as well. But that's everything that I was going to show you. I'll just quickly pick the box up and show you the outside again. So that was the outside of the box. It's bigger than I remember it being as well. But I'm not sure if that's just because this is a mystery box, whether it was that big last time and I've just forgotten. So that's everything. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you are interested in true crime, or even if you aren't, what you think of the box. And I will see you all very soon, no doubt, for another unboxing. Bye.